Dave. As promised, I kind of wanted to make a video just explaining my training methodology and also like the different techniques and the principles I use to do strength conditioning with athletes like yourself. I have a very different approach. So before we got into anything, Chelsea said you might be interested in training. I wanted to give you an overview of what it is I do because it's going to be a lot different probably than anything you've experienced before. And you might like that or you might hate it. I don't know. So rather than, get involved in something first, I figured let me give you an example of what it is I do, kind of outline things for you. And then from there you can kind of make a decision. So just really quick on philosophy. All the time I hear jujitsu likened to a chess match, right? So that it might be appropriate to give you an example of how what I do is also similar to chess. Um, One of the worst concepts or one of the worst mistakes you can make as a novice chess player in an opening is just move the same piece over and over again and fail to develop all of your pieces, right? What you're failing to do is establish a better board state, a better position to then work a strategy. I think this is a mistake that's happening in fitness all the time, strength and conditioning all the time. We kind of focus overly on one attribute at the behest of all others, okay? Or we have one favorite attribute that we continue to improve and don't work on the rest. This is a very big mistake. Let me give you an example. Let's suppose I'm trying to gain weight. We talked about this on the phone a little bit. A common strategy is to eat a lot. Eat 6 to 8 times a day, take in a lot of calories, and create this caloric net gain, whereby you will gain weight. But then I have to ask the question, what kind of weight? Am I gaining fat as well as muscle? Absolutely, right? If I'm eating all the time, I'm going to be stuck in an anabolic state. And what you're going to see in a minute when I talk about it, that's not a good thing. If you're in an anabolic state, you can't produce energy as well. On top of that, if you're trying to gain all these calories, right, and trying to gain weight, not only am I going to gain fat, but I'm also going to probably neglect cardio because, well, if I'm trying to gain calories and I'm trying to build muscle, right, cardio isn't necessarily going to be something I want to do because, I'm going to be wasting calories and it's not going to contribute to muscle gain. That's a common practice. I totally disagree with it. Why would you, as an athlete who needs cardiovascular capacity, neglect that, even in your off season? Right? To have to go back and get it later. Why would you gain unwanted weight along with wanted weight to have to go back and do a weight cut? Something that's the bane of combat athletes. So this is a false premise. This is a bad approach to fitness. This is a bad approach to strength conditioning that I don't like. I like to get everything involved together. I like to get all my pieces off the back row involved in the game and coordinate them all for an attack versus me just kind of focusing on one thing. Oh, I'm going to make a bunch of queen moves and then put her in danger, get her captured, and now I'm fucked because I have no board position. Same idea. That's a little bit here and there, but anyway, that's the idea. And what you're going to see here is a much greater systemic approach, both to exercise and diet, and kind of a different underlying reason for training or a different focus. And I want to go over that real quick with you. So these are some strategies I'm going to use in strength conditioning. One, I'm going to take a systemic training approach, like I just mentioned. I'm going to get the entire body involved in what I'm doing. Two, I'm going to follow optimal feeding cycles. This is a diet concept that most people don't adhere to, and I'll talk about why these are important and why they work hand in hand with a systemic training approach. Three, I want to optimize my hormones, and I'm going to do that with my proper exercise, proper dieting, possibly supplementation, that's up to you. And the reason I'm going to do all three of these things is for one specific purpose, and that's this guy right here. I want to optimize my energy systems, all right? Optimizing your energy systems is the most important concept in strength and conditioning because it's how you perform. I have a prior video on this channel, SP lecture number 1, in which I talk about the basics of some of your major energy systems. There's more than that. There's more to it than that. But if you want a better understanding of it, I don't know your biological or your anatomical knowledge background is, but it'd be a place you can actually get some information on that. But let's just go over a quick overview of what I'm going to do in all these areas. The first one, a systemic training approach. I want a total body approach to exercise in every workout. That's not a new or interesting concept really, but that's the way we're going to do it. We're going to be working on the entire body as a system. In addition to that, I'm not going to be too concerned about the strength of any one muscle group, although we're going to work all of them together for sure and not leave any out or make any weak. But the point is, I'm going to be more interested in things like this. Here's a concept that you've probably never heard before. Systemic power output. What I mean by that is, as a system, how much effort can my body put out per capita of time? We have interesting ways of measuring about that. You're going to hear about that in a second. Additionally, Here's another concept you've probably never heard of: incremental power output. And what that means is, what is the unit of measure by which I am performing systemic power output? So per capita time, with each body movement, how much energy am I putting out? What's the power output per movement? Okay, and again, that'll make more sense in a moment, but again, a kind of an alien concept. The way we're going to kind of work on these two things is by building a program around, and Chelsea probably already mentioned this to you, a kettlebell sport lift. Okay, and you'll see why in a moment. Kettlebell sport is super unique. It gives us the opportunity to kind of work the body in a way that no other type of exercise does. Now, the lift we're going to use is a kettlebell sport lift called long cycle, and it's just really a kind of a different name for clean and jerk. So if you've seen people clean and jerk 2 kettlebells, that's what you're going to be doing. And that's what we're going to kind of base the program around. So this is going to be the bulk of what we do in various ways. Why would I want to build a program around that? Well, this is exactly why. There's some characteristics of long cycle that are unique to it, but are also, you're going to see, kind of similar to something else. For one, we can control tempo. We can go faster, we can go slower. We're going to be working for duration. So less so about like, am I doing 10 reps? Am I doing 12? Am I doing 20? I'm going to be concerned more about how long am I working and how fast I'm working. Another thing we're going to be looking at is creating a rhythm. The lift is rhythmic. I think. I don't even know how to spell that. I think that's how you spell it. Don't hold that one against me. The lift is rhythmic. It's total body, all right? And if you take these things, tempo, duration, rhythmic, large muscle groups working, right? Working for time. This sounds like something you've probably heard of before. Something called cardiovascular exercise, okay? But there's a difference here. Something like running, cycling, swimming, those are cardio exercises. They do not have this component. They do not have a resistance component or a loading component. If I'm lifting like for example, me in kettlebell sport, I'm lifting 32 kilogram weights, right? That's a lot of weight. That's 140 pounds. I'm lifting in a clean and jerk 7-8 times. I'm lifting a ton or more per minute for a prolonged period of time. That's something you don't get in traditional cardio. The interesting thing is, well, and I could say there's resistance in other forms of cardio like grade in running or maybe current in swimming or a gear in cycling, but not to this extent, not to the extent that I'm moving with my whole body many tons of weight. The interesting thing about long cycle is it's also covering a lot of the dominant characteristics of it are things you need for grappling: grip strength and endurance, back strength and endurance, powerful hips, powerful fatigue resistant legs, healthy shoulders, an incredibly powerful core, okay? It's the perfect exercise for the general conditioning of a combat athlete, especially a grappler. Now, as far as long cycle is concerned, as far as this is concerned, it's very similar, like I said, to cardio. However, we have this resistance component. So to that end, we can constantly monitor how much work we're doing, right? I can measure, I move this many tons in this many minutes. Additionally, I can measure the bells. I'm accomplishing that using 2 weights of a certain amount. Now, if I want to get more powerful, I, of course, can use bigger weights and the incremental will get better. Or I can focus on more power output in total, which I can use with lighter weights. So I can micromanage this to get different types of conditioning. What I'm going to do to this is add 2 very simple things, because this is already very complete. I'm going to add some traditional strength training. I'm going to add some traditional cardio. Okay? And when I do this, you have super complete program. Strength, improving your overall ability to move resistance, is going to improve this more. The cardio is going to improve this more. How efficient your heart is, how much blood you get per stroke, how good your body's utilization of oxygen and fat are. Why would I do all this? Well, think about it from this perspective. When you're training like this, right, at a tempo with heavy weights, what your body begins to do is learn to produce energy using a more efficient energy system. Like I said, we can look at energy systems. There's that other video you can look at, but understand this. The whole point of kettlebell sport lifting is to become comfortable moving lots of weight for long periods of time. Become more comfortable, have a lower heart rate, be more efficient at doing it, getting more energy from a place like fat burning and oxygen than from phosphates or sugars, which you're going to run out of, which you're going to get a lactic acid burn, which you're going to run into limiting factors. You're not going to run out of limiting factors here. The more you can get from this lower energy system, right, the more efficient you're going to be, the more relaxed you'll be. One thing that can happen in combat sports is if your heart rate goes super high, you don't make judgment calls as easy. It's hard to be more rational, right? So it works completely. It has all the attributes you want. This is the type of training you really want, the type of conditioning you really want. Super efficiency. And of course, we're not neglecting our strength and power. That'll be there as well. But the idea is I'm going to center my training around this long cycle, this building a super efficient energy base. Okay? That's one idea. Second, optimum feeding cycles. This is a concept that is not typically used by most strength conditioning coaches or athletes. What I mean by optimum feeding cycles, we talked about intermittent fasting, although it's not a very good term for it. Really what I'm talking about is a period of hunger followed by a period of compensation. And this is a cycle. And going through this cycle does more for you than if you just continuously feed your body. This is based off survival mechanisms. Fitness is survival gone completely retarded. We no longer have to survive. We no longer have to go through periods without food. We no longer have to run from predators, but we take advantage of those same mechanisms in fitness. I mean, whether it be recreationally or for sport or just to look better or feel better or for general health, the adaptations we make come from our survival background, our survival history, okay? The hunger and compensation cycle has a whole bunch of benefit, and I'm going to give you one major thing. And again, the reason I'm giving you like scientific names for things, I want you to go look these up if you question it. Like, oh, that's an interesting concept. You can look this up. One of the things that happens in hunger and compensation is you begin to manipulate a compound in your body. It's a protein called mTOR. It stands for mammalian target of rapamycin. And that could be a many-hour lecture in and of itself. But there's a reason I want to deliberately affect the production and the hindrance of this protein. This is a protein that has enzymatic characteristics, meaning it catalyzes things. It catalyzes things in the body, all right? And some of the things it catalyzes are things you very much want. One, cell proliferation. Two, all right, protein synthesis. Specifically, muscle repair. This is one of the most important mechanisms in your body for growth, cellular growth, building muscle, that kind of thing, okay? So with hunger and compensation, in conjunction with this type of systemic training protocol, you're going to more heavily manipulate mTOR. Long story short, if you're constantly eating, right, your mTOR will kind of always be at a certain place. If you fast, it gets lower. But like everything in the body, which you're going to figure out, there are cycles to it. It's how we developed. So a period of low mTOR production followed by sudden compensation, right, followed by rest after challenging yourself while being hungry, it will spike tremendously to much higher levels than it will have been before, okay? And when you do that, you have the ability to put much more protein into your muscles. So while you'll be storing a lot of calories if you eat constantly, by fasting and then training and then compensating yourself, you'll be storing the right type. Nothing here has to do with fat gain, right? This is the proliferation of proteins and cells in your muscle, okay? They say you cannot gain muscle and lose fat at the same time, and they'd be right. But there's no rule that says if you learn to fast and then compensate yourself, that you can't for most of the day be relying on a fat energy source, toiling, fasting, so on and so forth. Then at night when you eat more, or after you toil, you eat more, you compensate. And now because of these mechanisms, your body's affinity for absorbing proteins and building its muscle will be much higher than putting back fat. And that's the concept I use dietarily speaking. So it's a very brief overview, but that's the idea. Lastly and briefly, hormone optimization. We want to talk about some major hormones here and how to, and again, these two things, if done properly, along with some minor supplementation, up to you, can affect these things as well. We'll be looking at things like insulin. We're going to be looking at things like insulin-like growth factor, very important, because these two things directly affect the production of this. All right, we'll be looking at things like testosterone, of course, how to optimize your testosterone, looking at things like, even more important, dihydrotestosterone, DHT, right? And these are our anabolic factors. Secondly, we want to talk about our opposite, our catabolic factors. Things like stress hormones like cortisol. We want to talk about things like glucagon and also adrenaline. And similar to here, it's the cycling between these two sets of hormones, dominance, that's going to create more of this, what you want. If you stay in an anabolic state, it's not healthy. There's a concept that's been put out because of the bodybuilding and the figure culture and, that side of fitness, that anabolic is good because you're building muscle, you're building things, and catabolic is bad. Anabolic means the building of tissue. And yes, your body likes to be in one or the other state, a building process or a breaking down process. An anabolic state, right, means building muscle, sure. It also means storing fat. It's the proliferation of tissue. You stay in it for too long, you can see this happening in America all the time. People that are 300, 400, 500 pounds, they're stuck in an anabolic state. They're eating to the point where they are not only getting energy exogenously, but they're, instead of using their own stored energy, they're also eating to store more. This is a runaway anabolic effect. People who are ill and wasting away are stuck in a catabolic effect. As an athlete, this is much more important because what I was talking about earlier, the number one thing we're going to be focusing on is optimizing our energy systems. Energy systems are all about breaking things down and creating energy. All right. So getting good at this and getting good at cycling back and forth the right amount at the right times between these two things are going to have a much more profound effect on your body and your performance if you stay in any one or the other. All of these things are going to contribute to optimizing your energy systems. All right. And just to kind of briefly give you an idea of what you're dealing with here, and I don't know, I mean, you could see the board or pause it or whatever. And again, I'm talking a long time here. I don't want to talk forever, but I want to just give you an idea. If you work on any one thing, right, your body will get used to it. So, if you're used to eating sugar before you train and that's available, your body will get used to using sugars, right? If you're used to, doing just plain old cardio, your body will get used to using fats, things like that. With a complex approach like this, including the fasting, including the hormonal stuff and everything, we're trying to get you good at everything. You've heard of maybe muscle fiber conversion or muscle fiber types. Your body can change those. And ideally what you want to do is create a hybrid fiber type. So not just building muscle, but building the right type of muscle, if that makes sense. What I want are muscle fibers that do a whole bunch of different things. They can utilize predominantly fats, fatty acid chains, and oxygen. They can use sugars and oxygen. They can use sugar anaerobically. They can use amino acids. That's something I don't talk about in the other video. That's amino acids. That's the alanine cycle, if necessary. All right. They can do things like utilize phosphagens, the phosphagen system, creatine phosphate. All right. They also have superior connective tissue. All right. And that's something I didn't really talk about, but they have free energy by means of superior tissue quality. The type of training we're doing will do that. In other words, I'm trying to create a super self. It's some Dragon Ball Z shit. It's like Super Saiyan, right? It's an elevated form of yourself. And this is something you can also look up. Again, I'm mentioning a lot of things. If you're curious or you want to know more about it, you can go look up these things. All right, that's why I'm giving you all this information. But our body likes to do this. As soon as you start training, it starts converting things. And there's something you can look up or maybe not look up, but because there's not too much information on it. But there's a type of muscle fiber that has a superior ability to utilize energy from every area. And this is this 2C and 1C fiber. There's not too much information on it, but it's something you can go and look into. I don't think they've studied and biopsied the right athletes to know a lot about it, to be quite honest. But in any event, just another place you can look. We want more of these superior muscle fibers. They're going to draw energy from many places. If you do that, the body will do whatever it needs to. You'll get bigger if you need to. You'll get more energy. It'll all kind of come together rather than focusing on the end result. Well, I want to get bigger because it's going to probably affect my strength. Just get bigger and not necessarily going to affect your strength, right? If you did a bodybuilding type of workout, which a lot of people are doing, and now you have more tissue that's less efficient. The idea is efficiency. Okay, so I know that was a long video. I know there's a lot of information there. I gave it to you so you can kind of look it up and get an idea of what we're doing, but really we wanted to have all those factors come together for us. All right, so check it out. If you have any questions, please let me know. You have my number. Shoot me a message if you want me to elaborate on anything or talk more about the type of training we'd be doing, the specifics of that. But really, if you want good results, this is what I do. All right, so check it out and get back to me after you've digested all that. Take care, man.